everyone, welcome to today's video tutorial. In today's video, we are going to be making Olly the Octopus from Likey's Amitami line. I am so excited to get into this with you, but before we start our project, let me show you all the materials that come in your kit and let's get familiar with them a little bit before we begin. So this is everything you can expect to receive in the Olly the Octopus kit. First and foremost, we have our instructions. I'll be going over these step by step with you today, but if you want to follow along with me, they are right here for you to look at. We also have the perfect amount of our main color yarn. This is going to be dark pink, as well as a little bit of our accent color, which is light pink, and this is going to be referred to as color A, color B, which is black. We also have a darning needle and a stitch marker for us to use in our project. We also, of course, have our crochet hook. In this case, we are using a 2.5mm hook for this project. And last but not least, we have the stuffing to fill our Amitami project with. So that is everything we need to complete this project, and let's jump right into the tutorial. One last quick note about our instructions before we get started. If you're following along with me, we're going to start at the head and body and work our way down here. You can also find the list of all the materials we just talked about here, as well as a basic conversion chart and abbreviations if you're trying to learn how to read crochet. They are all here for you. And then on the back, we do have our assembly guide for putting Olly together. So we'll get to this part much later, but I just wanted to show you that quickly before we get started. So here we are with our main color, which is again dark pink. We are going to begin our project. All we need is our hook, our main color, and our stitch marker. So to begin, let's start this yarn tail off. And we are going to begin the head and body. So our instruction for round one is with our main color, dark pink, chain 3, and in the second chain from the hook, make 6 single crochets, marking your last stitch and moving the stitch marker each round. So let's start that. We first need to create our slip knot in order to chain 3. So if you're unfamiliar with how to make a slip knot, let's do one together. So to create a slip knot, put 2 fingers out like this. You're going to drape the yarn over your fingers like this, clamp it into place with your thumb, wrap it around your index finger and middle finger here. Then you're going to crisscross the yarns over like this, so you have a nice little X there. That's very important. And hold the yarn down with your ring finger like so. Then take your hook with the hook side down. We are going to go underneath that first strand there, grab that second strand. Let's pull it through, twisting our hook just slightly, and we can release our fingers, pull our knot tight, and now we have created a slip knot. So let's do that one more time together. All right, again, placing 2 fingers out, draping the yarn over our fingers, clamping it in place with our thumb, wrap that around your index and middle finger, creating a crisscross of the yarns. We're going to hold that down with our ring finger, taking our hook, hook side down, going under that first strand, grab the second strand, pull it, twist towards you just a little bit, just so we can hold it while we get our fingers out, and pull our slip knot tight. This is just an adjustable knot on your hook, so it's very helpful and you will need it moving forward in crochet. So now that we have our slip knot, we can chain up 3. So let's do that together, and then we'll move on to our next set of instructions. So once you chain up 3, it says in the second chain from the hook, we need to place 6 single crochet. So to create a single crochet, if you're unfamiliar, we first need to find the second chain from the hook. So this loop on the hook does not count as a stitch. So we have 1 chain here, 2 chain here. Into that second chain, we're going to pierce our hook through that stitch there, and we're going to yarn over by putting the yarn over our hook, pull that back through that stitch. So now we have 2 loops on the hook, and then we're going to take our yarn, yarning over again, and pull through our stitch, and there we have 1 single crochet. So let's do that again into that same space. We're working all 6 into that same chain space, okay? Push our hook through, yarning over, pull up the loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through number 2. And again, pushing through, grabbing the yarn, pulling it up, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through number 3. We need to do this a total of 6 times. So there's number 4 for me. Whoop. Watch your tail doesn't get in the way there either. Number 5, and lastly, number 6. So after you've created 6 single crochet, we can go ahead and place our stitch marker in that last stitch. This is going to mark the end of every single round so we know when we're back to the beginning of the round. So there we go. We have 6 single crochet and we are ready for round 2. Okay, so for round 2, our instructions are to make an increase in every stitch all the way around, so we'll have 12 single crochet. So since we have 6, we need to bring our number 6 to number 12. So we need to go into that first stitch that we made our first single crochet from the previous round, pop your hook through the stitch, yarn over, pull up the loop again, and we're going to create 1 single crochet in that stitch. Now into that same stitch we just made that single crochet in, let's make 1 more single crochet. This creates a single crochet increase. An increase just means 2 single crochet in 1 stitch. Into our next stitch here, we're going to do the same exact thing. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Okay, so now we have 4 single crochets, and we're going to do 5, 6, there we go, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then our last stitch here will be number 11 and 12, so we did it correctly. So remove your stitch marker and place 2 more single crochets into that 1 stitch there. So we now have 12 single crochet. And after you make that second single crochet, go ahead and place your stitch marker back so we don't lose what the last stitch of the round is. And that is the end of round 2. So there we go. We can now move on to round 3. And round 3 says single crochet in the next stitch, increase in the next stitch 6 times for 18 single crochet. So this will be very similar to what we've already done. We're going to go into that first stitch here, our next stitch, and we're going to make 1 single crochet. And that's our first stitch of the round. Into the next stitch, we're going to place an increase, and that's what that means when it says 1 single crochet and an increase. We're doing 1 single crochet in the first stitch, and in the next stitch is an increase. Let's do that one more time together. Into that next stitch, a single crochet, and into that next stitch, a single crochet increase. You're going to repeat this all the way around, ending on a single crochet increase at your stitch marker, and I will meet you back at the end of round 3 and we'll begin round 4 together. I've just made my last stitch of round 3, so I'm going to place my stitch marker back into that single crochet there, and let's move on to round 4 together. So for round 4, we're going to make a single crochet in the next 2 stitches and an increase 6 times, so our new stitch count will be 24 at the end of this row. So let's do the first part of this round together. Into that first stitch, 1 single crochet. Into that next stitch, 1 single crochet. And into that following stitch, 2 single crochet. And that is what that means when it says a single crochet in the next 2 stitches and an increase. One more time. 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, an increase single crochet. Go ahead and repeat that all the way around, and I will see you at the end of round 4. Okay, well done. We are at the end of round 4 and we are ready for round 5. So for round 5, we need to place 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around, still having a stitch count of 24. So to do that, all you need to do is place 1 single crochet in every single stitch. There's no increases in this round, all the way around, and our stitch count will remain at 24. So go ahead and do that. I'll see you at the end of round 5 and we'll begin round 6 together. Okay, I just finished round 5. We have 24 single crochets still, and you can maybe see a little bit of a bowl shape starting to form. That's completely normal. When you work a row that is the same amount of stitches as the previous row, it will start to build up the sides instead of build out the circle. So if you're seeing that, that's totally fine and actually how it should be. So we're going to move on to round 6. So for round 6, we're going to make a single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then an increase 6 times as well. So into the first stitch, 1 single crochet, into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, and into the third stitch, 1 more single crochet, and then our increase after those 3 single crochet in a row. There we go. Let's do it one more time. Into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, into the third stitch, 1 single crochet, and an increase right here. Go ahead and complete that. I will see you at the end of round 6 and we'll move on to round 7. So I just finished round 6, it's time for round 7, and round 7 is going to be 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then an increase. So very similar to what we have been doing. Our new stitch count after this round will be 36. So let's do one set together. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then our increase. So go ahead and complete that for round 7. I'll meet you back here for round 8. I'm to the last stitch of round 7, just completing my final increase here. We now have 36 stitches. Add my stitch marker back in. And before we move on to round 8, I am actually going to take my circle, how we have it like this, and we're kind of working on the inside. I'm going to flip it like this. So I'm just going to push the center to the outside, and I'm going to work around the outside like this. I just prefer to work this way. It's a little more comfortable for me. If you want to keep it so you're working on the inside, you're totally more than welcome to do so, but I'm just going to push mine out. So I just wanted to mention that to you really quickly. And round 8, we're going to make 1 single crochet in the next 11 stitches and then an increase. We're only going to do this 3 times, and our new stitch count will be 39. So we'll do the first set together. All right, we'll work 11 single crochet first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and last one, number 11 here. Perfect. And then into this next stitch, which would be number 12, we're going to make an increase. Perfect. Go ahead and do that 2 more times, and I will meet you back here at the end of round 8, and we'll start our repeat rounds, which will be rounds 9 through 17. So I will catch you back in just a second, and we'll begin those rounds. So I've just finished round 8, and we now have 39 stitches. This is the most stitches we will have in a round. So now for round number 9 through 17, as mentioned, we are going to do 9 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. So for 9 rounds, go ahead and make 1 single crochet in each stitch. I would highly recommend at the end of every round you mark a tally just to keep track of what round you're on. It's really easy to lose count, and remember to continuously move your stitch marker even when you're working these repeat rounds. You want to make sure you don't end up doing too many or too little. So I'm going to work my 9 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch. You do the same, and I will meet you back here at the end of those repeats, and we will begin round number 18. Okay, welcome back. I just finished my 9 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch for 39 stitches per round, and we are ready for round 18. So for round 18, the instructions are make 1 single crochet in the next 11 stitches and then 1 decrease 3 times for 36 single crochets. So let's start the first part of that by making 11 single crochets normally, as we have been. That was 2, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and number 11 right here. Perfect. Now we need to create our first decrease. So to decrease a single crochet stitch, all you need to do is insert into the first stitch as normal. We're going to grab our loop and pull it up. So we have 2 loops on the hook. This is where we typically yarn over and pull through, but instead of doing that, we're going to go into the next stitch with both loops still on our hook, and we're going to grab another loop in that stitch. So now we have 3 loops on our hook. We are through 2 different stitches, and now we can yarn over and complete our stitch like that, and that is a decrease. So we can do that one more time together. Let's do 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. All right, let's do another decrease together. Into that first single crochet stitch, we're going to grab our loop, pull it up, 2 loops on the hook, into the next stitch with both those loops still on the hook. We're going to grab another strand of yarn and pull that up, 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, and pull through. We just made 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet. Do that one more time, make 11 single crochet and a decrease. I'll meet you back at the stitch marker and we'll begin the next round together. All right, just like that, our first round of decreasing is complete, so good job there. We are gonna do round 19 now. So for round 19, we're gonna do 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches, then a decrease 6 times for 30 single crochet. So let's start that together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our decrease. All right, there we go. Go ahead and complete that all the way around. I'll meet you back at the end of round 19, and we're gonna have 30 single crochet stitches left at the end of this round. All right, that is the end of round 19, and let's move on to round 20. So we're gonna single crochet in the next 3 stitches and a decrease. Our new stitch count will be 24 after this round. So you can probably start to see a little bit of a pattern in how we're decreasing the same way we had a pattern when we were increasing. So there's my 3 single crochet and a decrease right here. Go ahead and complete round 20. I'll meet you back for round 21. So we've just finished round 20 and we're gonna work round 21. This round we're gonna take a little break from our decreasing to do something a little bit different, which I'm gonna show you in one moment. But before we do that, let's start stuffing our octopus. We will stuff this more as we go, but as our hole starts to close up, we wanna start adding stuffing so it's not super challenging to stuff it at the end. So go ahead and grab some of your stuffing. I like to just fluff mine apart a little bit before stuffing it into the octopus, just to make it even more fluffy here. And you don't want to overstuff at any point, but especially at this point, because you don't want to start pulling your stuffing through while you're single crocheting. It's really hard to avoid if you stuff it a little bit too much. You can determine how soft or firm you want your plushie to be as you're working, but we're just getting an initial baseline going here so that we can have the bottom at least stuffed and ready to go as we start closing this hole up. So I think that that's going to be plenty for me right now. As you can see, I still have a lot of space around these sides, so while I'm working, it's not going to get in the way of my crochet hook, which is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. So there we go, pretty nice and stuffed here. I'm going to add my hook back in because I did pull up my loop to do so. And we are ready for round 21. So I told you we're gonna do something a little bit different, and what we're doing in this round is working in the back loop only, single crochet in each stitch all the way around for 24 single crochet. So there is also an image on the instructions you can look at if you want even more of a visual, but of course I'm gonna show you how to do that. So in the back loop, what that means is there is a front loop here and a back loop. So we're gonna work into this back loop right here. So every single crochet kind of has this V, so we'll call this the front of the V. This is the front of the single crochet. This is the entire single crochet, which is the 2 strands. And then back here, this other side of the V is the back loop, okay? So that's the part of the single crochet we're gonna work through for this entire round and this round only. So next round we'll go back to regular single crochet, but for round 21, into that back loop, we're gonna work 1 single crochet. Just like that. And then into the next stitch, we're gonna work into the back loop of that one, making sure you just have 1 part of the single crochet on your hook, and it is the back part of that V. Go ahead and make 1 more single crochet. We're not doing any decreases or increases in this round. It's just 1 round of 1 single crochet in every stitch. So into the back loop again, just the back part of that stitch, 1 more single crochet. Go ahead and complete this for the entire round of round 21, and then we'll meet back for round 22, and we're going to begin decreasing again. So I'm just working again in the back loop of only this round. This is going to leave the front loop available for us later so we can work into that, and you can kind of see there's a little like ridge line almost creating. That's exactly what you want. It's a little bit difficult to see on the chenille yarn, but you can feel it with your finger if you kind of rub your hand over that little spot where we have our front loops. So keep going all the way around. I'll meet you back here at the end of round 21. Okay, I have just finished my round 21 of working in the back loop only, so back to working through both the front and back stitch of the single crochet. We're going to start round 22. So for round 22, we're going to do a single crochet in the next 2 stitches and a decrease. We're doing this 8 times, so our new stitch count is going to be 18. So just a refresher, on a decrease, we have 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and a decrease. Remember, you're working through both stitches this time again, no more back loop only. So there you go. Go ahead and complete that 7 more times for a total of 8, and we'll have 18 single crochets at the end of row 22. All right, I'm just finishing up my round 22 here, just doing my last decrease. And before we move on to round 23, I am going to begin stuffing a little bit more again, because as you can see, our circle is rapidly decreasing in size. So I'm moving my stitch marker up to that last stitch. I'm going to add a little more stuffing, and then we're going to begin round 23, which round 23 is going to be 1 single crochet in the next stitch and a single crochet decrease 6 times. So we're going to go down to 12, and that'll be very similar to what we have been doing. Here we go, round 23, into the first stitch, 1 single crochet, into the next 2 stitches, a decrease. All right, perfect. And we are doing this 6 times. Go ahead and complete that. I'll meet you back here when we have 12 stitches left. All right, we just finished round 23 and round 24, which is our last round for the head and body of Ollie. We need to work 1 single crochet decrease in every stitch all the way around. So we're gonna go down to just 6 stitches here. So a single crochet decrease in our first stitch, just like that. There's no single crochets in between here, okay? So we're gonna go right into another single crochet decrease over the next 2 stitches again. There's 2, 1 more here, 3, and again, 4, 5, and our last 2 stitches here is our last decrease. I'm removing my stitch marker and setting it aside. We will not need it for this next part, since this is our last part of this round and the last part of the head and body. Okay, there we go. We have worked our 6 single crochet decrease. We have 6 stitches left. We're going to chain up 1, and then we're going to cut a tail for sewing our project together. So let me grab my scissors here, and I'm going to leave myself about this long of a tail, cut it there. I can place my yarn aside for just a second. And with the loop on your hook here, just pull it all the way up and out like that. That helps fasten that in a little bit more. You can try to add a little bit more stuffing into the body here. I'm gonna add just the tiniest bit more. Sometimes when the hole is really small like that too, oh, I can still get my finger in there. I was going to say though, if you are having trouble getting your finger in there when it's that small, you can use the back of your crochet hook and just stuff it down like that. That's another really easy way to get a little more stuffing in there. So finish stuffing off your octopus if you choose to add more, and then we're gonna close up this hole so you won't be able to stuff after that point. So make sure it's to your liking before we close up the hole. Once I stuffed my octopus, I did just roll it in my hands a little bit just to make them a little bit longer like that. I think that's pretty close to the shape on the photo that we have. So I did that, and then I did take my darning needle that was in our Ziploc bag, and I did thread it onto my yarn here like this. So we are ready to close up our circle here. So what we need to do to close up this circle here is we're going to take our needle and coming from the inside where the stuffing is to the outside, push it through that first stitch right there, just like that. And then into the next stitch, I'm going to come from the outside in towards the stuffing. Make sure you're not grabbing the stuffing though, because it'll end up popping through in our work, just like that. In that third stitch, we're by the stuffing side again. We're going to push out to the outside, which is towards us. There we go. We can rotate the body as we go as well. And in the fourth stitch, we're going to go inward towards that stuffing side again. For number 5, we're going to come out towards us again. And number 6, we're going to go in towards the stuffing one last time. So when it's like this, then you can take it and pull it tight, just like that, and it'll close up our hole for us there, which is so nice. And then you can just take your ends and weave it into the body just a couple of times to really secure that close up we did. Don't pull this tail too tight or you could misshape the body a little bit. We don't want to change Ollie's shape. So after you do that, with your end right here, take your scissors and cut as close to that end as possible. There you go. Okay, and so just like that, we have the head and body of Ollie completed. We are now going to start the tentacles. So we do need the head and body for this part. So we're just going to place this down here, and let me read our instructions for the tentacles. So it says, now we're going to make the tentacles. The first tentacle is shorter and the second one is longer, with the head facing downward. So this was the top where we started. This is the bottom. So we'll turn it like this. So the top of the head is facing towards us. We are going to start working in the front loops of round 21. Remember those front loops we have, that ridge line we created? That's the row we're going to work in for the tentacles. Insert the hook in the first stitch and take our main color, which is our dark pink, chain 14 starting in the second chain from the hook, half double crochet in the next stitch, increase in the next stitch, half double crochet in the next 2 stitches, 4 times for 17 half double crochet. So, okay, there's a lot of instructions here. We're going to take this step by step, so don't worry. We first need to find our row 21. So hopefully you're kind of able to see yours, but if not, you can just take your crochet hook, kind of lay it down flat against the body of Ollie, and if you just kind of poke and push around, you will be able to find where that front loop is, because it kind of sits up higher than all the other stitches. And once we start working this, it becomes very easy to find the next loop. So don't worry too much about that. But we do have, remember, the top of the head facing downwards or towards us, whichever is most comfortable for you. And we're going to get going on this. So let's attach our yarn here, our main color. First, we need to make our slip knot to do this. So remember, 2 fingers out, wrapping it around like this, creating our X. And while it's attached to Ollie's body, that's totally fine. We're just going to grab our yarn and make our slip knot there. That's just so we're fastened on to round 21, okay? So after this, we are going to chain up 14. So pull that slip knot through the loop there and then begin chaining 14. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Perfect. So that was the next set of our instructions, was to chain 14, and starting in the second chain from the hook, we are going to work a half double crochet in that stitch, increase in the next. So we haven't done a half double crochet yet, so let's do that together. To find the second chain from the hook, we need to count back to number 2. So remember the first loop on our hook, this does not count as a stitch, so we have 1, 2, and this is the second chain from the hook. We need to make a half double crochet. So to do that, we're going to place the yarn over our hook first like this. So we already have a loop on our hook, and into that second stitch, we're going to push our hook through like this and yarn over, pull that loop up and through like that. So now we have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through. That is a half double crochet. And then our next set of instructions is to place an increase in the next stitch. So into that next stitch, go ahead and place your yarn over the hook again. And into that stitch, we're gonna poke through with our hook, grab the yarn, pull up, 3 loops on our hook. This is another half double crochet. And there we go. And then into that same chain space still, we're gonna do our increase. So put the yarn over your hook again, into the stitch, yarn over, pull up the loop, 3 loops on the hook, pulling through, there's our increase, okay? So now we're gonna do our next instruction, which is going to be a half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So let's do that. Into that next stitch, we have 1 half double crochet. And into that next stitch, we have 1 half double crochet. All right, and we're gonna repeat this 4 times on this little chain here. So that means we are going to, in the next stitch, do a half double crochet increase. So let's do that again. There's 1 half double crochet, and into that same space, we're doing 1 more half double crochet. There we go. And then into the next 2 chain spaces, we're gonna just do 1 half double crochet in those. This is gonna get the tentacle to kind of start twirling and whirling around, but that's what we want. So don't worry, that's exactly what it's supposed to do. That is what happens when you start adding a lot of extra stitches into a chain of, in this case, 14, and we're gonna end with how many half double crochet? 17. So when you're adding this many, it will start to curl the work like that. So that's good. So after our 2 half double crochet, we're gonna go back and repeat that again. So we're making a increase, a half double crochet, increase into that next stitch. 1, 2, perfect. And then into the next stitch, we're doing a half double crochet by itself. Okay, and one more half double crochet by itself into the next stitch. Okay, there we go. And let's repeat that pattern again. Into that next stitch, a half double crochet, increase. So we have 1 and 2, just like that. And then into our last 2 stitches, we're going to do 1 half double crochet in each of these stitches. So there is 1 half double crochet, and into that last stitch here, 1 more half double crochet. Perfect. So that is our first tentacle all completed. Okay, and then our next set of instructions is to skip 2 stitches and then slip stitch into the next stitch. So we're going to try to find those stitches where we have 1 here, all right, 2 here. Into that 3rd stitch, we're going to slip stitch. So a slip stitch is just simply yarning over, pull through, and pull through again. Okay, just like that. Perfect. And then that is our first tentacle completed, as I said. So our next tentacle is going to be our longer tentacle, and we are going to slip stitch into the next stitch, the same way we just did our previous one, just like that. And we're going to chain 18 this time instead of just 14. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Also, before we move on, I'll show you, sometimes you might have to help your tentacle along a little bit, so I'm just gonna give it a little twist and then it'll stay in place like that. So there you go. Just in case you were wondering, I had just realized what it looked like, so I wanted to show you how to kind of re-curl it like that. All right, so our next set of instructions for our longer tentacle, which is our chain of 18, in the second chain from the hook, we're gonna half double crochet in the next stitch, increase in the next stitch, half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So we're just gonna do this 5 times instead of 4 times like this, but it's the exact same sequence. So we'll do the first set together and then I will let you finish the tentacle by yourself. But remember, first loop on the hook doesn't count as a stitch. We have 1, 2, and into that second stitch, we are placing 1 half double crochet here. Perfect. Okay, just like that. And then into the next stitch, we're going to do a half double crochet increase. So that first half double crochet we complete is not part of our repeat sequence. That's just to get our little row started here. So we have an increase into that stitch there. Perfect. And then we're going to do 2 half double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches here. So do that really quickly. And so we're just going to repeat that of doing 1 half double crochet increase and then 2 half double crochets until the end of this tentacle, our longer one, and then I'll meet you back here at the end of this tentacle here. Okay, so I've just finished my second tentacle, my longer one. We're going to give it a little twist here to help it begin curling up just like that. Looks perfect. And we're going to skip 2 stitches and slip stitch. So we have 1, 2, and into that 3rd stitch we're going to slip stitch just like that. Perfect. And then we are going to slip stitch 1 more time. So now we are going to repeat making the shorter tentacle and then the longer one. You're going to do that a total of 3 more times, so you'll have 8 tentacles total in the end. So you're going to begin this one by chaining 14 and following the instruction for the shorter tentacle, and then you're going to skip your 2 stitches, slip stitch twice, and then begin your longer tentacle. So go ahead and do that. I'll meet you back here when I have all 8 of my tentacles, and we'll move on to the flower, which is the next part of Olly's project. Okay, so I just finished making all 8 of my tentacles and I have my little end to weave in after I finished. So I'm just gonna go through a couple of stitches here and just weave it in wherever I find the needle pokes through. Again, this part doesn't really matter where it is as long as you're not pulling too tight so you don't change the shape. And after you feel like you have weaved it in enough times and it's nice and secure, which I think that is plenty for me, you can go ahead and cut that off. And we are ready to move on to the next part of Olly, which is going to be the flower. So for the flower, we need color A, which was our light pink right here. And we are going to chain 3. So let's do that really quickly. I'm going to move my octopus out of the way because we don't need it right now, for the flower at least. So go ahead and make your slip knot the way we have been, and you're going to chain up 3. So let's do that together. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And we're going to work our first part of this flower in the second chain from the hook. So we're first going to go ahead and chain up 2 here, just like that. And we're going to work a different stitch than we have worked before. So still remembering to work in that second chain right here, we're going to yarn over first the same way we did for our half double crochet I showed you. Go ahead and insert your hook into that stitch like that, yarn over again, pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook as we did with our half double crochet, but this is a double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops only. We have 2 loops left on the hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 again, and that is a double crochet. Then we're going to slip stitch into the chain, and that's going to complete our first petal of the flower there. So we're going to do this a total of 4 more times. So let's do that again. We're going to chain up 2, 1, 2, like that. Yarn over into that same chain space we worked before. Let's make a double crochet. So remember, we're pulling through 2 first. 2 loops still on the hook, yarning over and pulling through 2 more, just like that, slip stitching into that same chain space there. Now we have 2 little petals. We're going to chain up 2 again, 1, 2, and we're going to yarn over into that same space. We're going to make 1 more double crochet, perfect, and we're going to slip stitch into that chain space again. Now we have 3 petals, so we have to do this 2 more times. So let's chain up 2 again, just like that. Yarning over into that chain space, we're going to pull up our loop, pull through 2, double crochet. You might have to kind of slide it down a little bit because your little chain 2 space here that we're working into is going to get pretty tight. So now we have 4 petals here, and we're going to work our last petal. So chaining up 2 one more time, and still working into that same chain 2 space from before, we are going to complete our last double crochet and place your last slip stitch. There we go. We have our cute little flower with our 5 separate petals, and we can chain 1. Let's leave a tail to fasten it on. We'll snip our yarn over here. You can put, you can put the light pink aside for a second. And my hook actually came out. I didn't get to pull it through. So make sure you do that too, where you pull the loop all the way off the hook so that it really secures that down. And there is our cute little flower. Okay, so now that we've made our flower, we can take our crochet hook, put that aside. I'm going to bring my scissors into the frame here, and we're going to bring Olly's body because we're going to start assembling, which is the fun part. So we also need our black yarn for this, and with all of this in front of us, we can begin putting Olly together. You can also remove your stitch marker. We don't need that anymore either. So we're going to start by putting on the eyes. So it says using color B, embroider the eyes along 4 stitches, leaving about 5 stitches in between them on round 13. So first things first, let me thread my black yarn so that we can get started making the eyes. Okay, now that my black yarn is attached, we're ready to put the eyes on. First, make sure you find the front of where you want Olly's face to be. I think for me, this side is perfect. And we're gonna go to the top of our project. Remember where we very first started? We're gonna count down to find row 13 because that's where we wanna place the eyes. So let's do that. This little spiral circle here is round 1. This is our first round we work. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Row 13 is right here, and this is where we're going to start our eyes, and then we'll put them 5 stitches apart as they mentioned. So we're going to start off by poking the darning needle into Olly's body and counting 4 stitches over. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's have our needle poke out over on this side after that 4th stitch there. And you can count the little stitches by like these little bumps here. I like to think about it as like a grid almost. It really helps me there. And I'm going to pull the yarn tail quite a long way through because we're going to do the mouth while still attached so we don't have a bunch of extra ends to weave in. I'm just going to leave about that much of a tail here. And now we need to create this little kind of half circle that Olly's eye has. So we're going to go 1 row above here, this single crochet row here, and we're going to go a little bit angled this way. We're going to poke through that stitch and come out right at the top of that same stitch, still a little bit on the diagonal there. So we have that there. Perfect. And then we need to fill in this gap here between where our black yarn is and where our tail is coming out. So we're going to go right into that same space where we had just gone before, and into that spot of the stitch we're going to come out maybe 1 more stitch over right here. So let's pull that through just to make that part of the eye there. Perfect. And then we have this little gap now that we need to close. So we're going to go right here where the black yarn ended, and we're going to try to poke out slightly diagonal again and a row lower because we're trying to meet up with this black yarn here that we have. This was our starting point, remember? So let's pull through here to close that up. Perfect. And then we need to close this up, so we're going to come from that same spot where the black yarn ends here. And we're going to pop out this time right at where our tail of the black yarn is here. So let's do that. Awesome. And then let's close up this last spot here. And we can just actually come out that same space that we came out before where our yarn tail is here. Let's do that. There we go. That created our little half circle, and it does look like she actually has some eyelashes, so let's do those really quickly too. So we're just going to poke through. You can be right where we were before, and let's go 1 stitch up and over right here. So we didn't make a line on that stitch, but now we're going to place our darning needle right in between where our line is here. And let's come out about 1 stitch and diagonally over again like this. Watch your little tentacles don't get stuck. Okay, so there we go. We have 1 eyelash. See that there? Try to ignore this yarn tail. We are going to weave this in later. So now we need to complete this little line here. So let's go into that same space where our other eyelash is coming from. And we're actually going to take our yarn needle and go all the way over to complete our next eye. So let's count over 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our needle needs to come out over here and on the same row where our other eye started. So let's do that. And this is going to not only complete our eyelash here, which look at that, there we go. We're also going to be starting our next eye here. So we're ready to begin eye number 2. So now we can start our second eye and trying to get it as close to this first eye as possible. So let's go up 1 stitch and slightly diagonal. We'll pop our first stitch into there, and remember before we came out about 1 more stitch and a little bit more diagonal this way. So we'll first embroider that part of the eye there. Perfect. And then let's close this gap. So we'll do that just like that, and we'll come out about 1 stitch over the same way we did before. Let me come back a little bit more. There we go. Perfect. Close that part of the eye, and then this was just a straight line here, so we'll close that. And then coming out here, we're going about 1 stitch down, slightly diagonal again. Just like that. And then let's close this gap up, and we'll come out right here 1 stitch below, slightly diagonal, just like we did on this side, so all of our bottom lines of the eyes are at the same point, which is exactly what we want. Perfect. And close this last little gap here, and then we need to make our eyelashes on this side. Whoops. So, all right, let's make our eyelashes really quickly. Okay, and so with our yarn coming out right here now, which is about the same space it came out on the other side, let's just go one stitch above, slightly diagonal, and we'll go into the stitch here. You can also check your other side, making sure that's about what we did, which looks about right. So let's just go in one time here. Perfect. All right, and then we'll mimic our other eyelash right here, which was a little bit lower, and about one stitch again. So we'll poke through there, close that up, and those are both of our eyelashes. Go ahead and just poke right on top of the stuffing, and we are going to start there to start our mouth. So with our eyelashes and eyes like this, let's move on to the mouth. I'm just placing this here as a placeholder right now. So it says with color B, which is our black, embroider the mouth along 3 stitches between row 15. So this was round 13 if you remember, so we can go 14, 15. This is about the center of those eyes here, so we want our darning needle to come out about here. I'm just going to hold it in place with my nail, and coming from where my eyelashes were, I'm going to poke my darning needle out right where I had my fingernail as a placeholder. So now we're at the middle of that smile here, and we can create our other sides of the smile. First thing we want to do is make one side of the smiling face. So we needed 3 stitches in between, which means this middle one, we just need to go on either side of the middle stitch. So 1 stitch up and a little bit over. We want to kind of line up with the eye as much as possible. So I'm just going to take my darning needle, come straight down to row 15, which this is the top of row 15 here. Push my yarn needle through, and I'm coming out of the same spot that we were in already, right in that middle stitch there. So let's do that, and this will make the first half of our smile here. Perfect, just like that. And then same thing goes on this side. Go from the end of the eye, drag your needle down just a little bit till you find that spot, and then go ahead and push through, coming out that middle again, okay? Move the yarn so it doesn't get all tangled in the tentacles there. And just complete, oh, that's our other yarn tail. There we go, complete that stitch. And there is our cute little smile and our eyes with our eyelashes. So now we just need to hide our yarn because we don't need this black yarn anymore. So pushing right through that same middle of the smile, I'm just gonna push my yarn straight out the back. So the needle's coming out the back of the octopus, pulling it all the way through. Don't get your tentacles caught up in here like I am getting mine here. It's okay, just pull them out. Make sure you just don't pull this all the way tight with them in there like that. So there we go. And also, I'm just gonna go on this side of my yarn now, and I'm gonna attach my darning needle here, and then I'm gonna push this through the same spot here, so right at the end of the eye, pushing this out the back as well. It's okay wherever it comes out the back. We're just gonna cut the tail off, so don't worry there. Okay, perfect, and cut both of these tails, and we will move on to the cheeks. Okay, how cute. We have both of our eyes and mouth on. She's starting to look so adorable. So let's do the cheeks. We need color A back, which was, remember, our light pink yarn here. And I'm just gonna attach this to my darning needle because we're going to make the cheeks with this light pink color. So with it threaded quite a bit here, it says, using color A, embroider the cheeks along 3 stitches 2 rounds below the eyes. Let's do that. From the bottom of the eye here, we'll go down 2 rows, 1, 2, and we're just gonna place our cheeks right here, and it's along 3 stitches. So I'm gonna back up 1 more stitch, just like that, so that this center stitch kind of lines up with the eye. That'll be the middle of our 3 stitches, and I'm gonna go under this stitch here, across 3, 1, 2, 3, coming out like this. So we're under the work right now, and then let's just complete that the same way we were doing with the black yarn, pulling a nice long tail because we're gonna go work the other cheek next, okay? So we are gonna push right back into that same spot, and let's go straight across over here, and we're gonna come out a stitch in front of that middle stitch that was 2 rows down from the eye, which was exactly this one, and it'll match perfectly up with this other side. So go ahead and push that darning needle all the way through, and let's see our first cheek close up over here. There we go, and then we can do this side. So this side we just need to work this way instead of this way like we did. So we have our first stitch here, 2, 3, And we'll come out of that same place we're in right now here. Watch your tentacles again. There you go. And now we have 2 cheeks. So the same way we did with the black yarn, we're just gonna push these tails to the back of the work and cut these off. Go ahead and weave both of these ends in, and then we'll finish off with the flower. Okay, let's finish our final step of Olly, which is sewing the flower on. So it says, sew the flower onto the left side of the head. Pretty self-explanatory there. So I'm just going to place the flower right here. Of course, if you want to sew this on somewhere else, you go ahead and do that. But for sake of following instructions, I'm just going to sew it on to the left side. I'm going to first poke my needle through the flower and into the body here, coming out about 1 stitch over, and just pull that all the way through. There you go. Then from in the body here, we're going to come up through the flower. When you're sewing pieces onto the body, try to stay in this last row of single crochets. It really helps make a nice neat assembly. And then from the top of the flower, now we're going to poke through the flower and again on to the body and about 1 stitch there. So you're just going to follow this all the way around, kind of mimicking the shape of the flower as you go. So next stitch is back up through the flower here like that. And you're just going to follow this all the way around until you get back to the beginning of your work. And we'll just fasten off our ends, and then we'll just hide all of our tails, and we'll be completely done. So here I am back at the beginning of my work again. I've just pushed through one last time to the body, and I've met back up with that other end we had from where we started the flower, if you remember. So first, just really make sure you like where it is, and I do. I think that looks super cute. So I'm just going to extra secure these by tying this in a little knot here, nice and close to the head. And then I can just weave these ends into the body the way we've been doing with everything else. Cut both of these tails off, and then we'll take one final look at Olly together, and we'll be all finished with this project. Alright guys, and that is Olly the Octopus all completed. Congratulations, you have finished your Amitami. Let me know which other of Likey's Amitami characters you're interested in. They're all so fun and cute, but Olly is such a good one. I do absolutely love this dark pink yarn we used for the body. I think she came out adorable, but I'd love to hear what you thought if you found this tutorial helpful. And I will be seeing you guys very, very soon in the next one. So until then, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and I will be seeing you soon. Bye!